Welcome to the deep dive. You've shared some really compelling source material with us today, focusing specifically on the energies around June 2025.
That's right.
And at the heart of it, there's this energy report diving into themes like freedom, awakening. Sounds fascinating.
It is, yeah. This report looks at, well, the pretty intense solar activity that's happening, apparently. And it offers some, interesting insights into how that might be directly influencing our personal transformation right now.
Okay, right. So let's unpack this together then. What exactly does this source claim is going on, energetically speaking?
Mm.
How might it be showing up for you, the listener? And I guess where does this report take us in exploring this idea of stepping into, well, profound freedom, even enlightenment?
Big themes.
Yeah. So our mission in this deep dive is really just to explore the most important ideas presented in this source.
Okay, so the report kicks off by highlighting these powerful solar flares and how they're sort of interacting with Earth's magnetic field.
Right. And what's particularly interesting here is the source's claim. It's saying these resulting energy waves aren't just, physical phenomena out there,
No, at all.
but that they're actually impacting our nervous systems, our emotional states, even our spiritual awareness.
Exactly. And it goes on to detail how this proposed energetic impact might, well, manifest in your daily experience.
How so? Like what kind of...
It mentions things like shifts in mood, feeling up and down,
Mhm.
old memories or feelings resurfacing unexpectedly, disrupted sleep patterns,
Hmm.
maybe a strong pull towards solitude, wanting more alone time.
That makes sense.
You might also find your intuition feels sharper, maybe, or you sense this urgency for change, even if you don't quite have a clear picture yet of what that change looks like.
Okay. And here's where the source offers that powerful reframe you mentioned.
Mhm.
It suggests these aren't signs something's wrong or that you're just having problems.
Mhm.
Instead, it views them as, what was the phrase? Signs that your entire being is responding to a massive energetic upgrade.
That reframe is so central to this whole perspective.
Yeah.
It really shifts the focus from feeling like you're falling apart to maybe you're being upgraded.
Yeah.
And based on that, the approach it suggests isn't to push back against what's coming up.
Right. Not fighting it,
No, but to gently lean into it.
leaning in. What does that mean practically, according to the source?
Well, it mentions practices like prioritizing rest, which is huge, unplugging when you can, from devices, news,
Mhm.
allowing yourself to actually feel and maybe journal emotions without immediately trying to fix them or figure them out.
Just feeling them?
Yeah. Spending time in nature is another one. And really listening to your body's wisdom. What does it need?
Okay.
The source suggests that whatever is surfacing now is doing so for a reason. Is ready to be seen, felt, and ultimately released. The purpose, they claim, is to help you align more fully with your true path and let go of those old, outdated patterns and identities that just don't serve you anymore.
And it offers that reassurance, doesn't it, that you're not falling apart?
Exactly. But rather being reassembled into the next, more luminous version of yourself. It's quite a hopeful message, really.
It is, yeah. It's a really encouraging way to look at what could feel like challenging feelings. And the report connects this intense, energetic period directly to a major theme, freedom.
It does. And it makes an interesting observation about freedom itself,
Yeah.
suggesting it's been relatively sparse, I think was the word.
Sparse, wow.
Yeah, in both our individual and collective consciousness for a long time. But according to this source, aspects of it began to return maybe late 1950s, early 1960s,
Okay.
building momentum ever since. And now, they claim, the collective mind is genuinely starting to open up and connect with what it calls the frequency of complete freedom.
The source makes a distinction here, doesn't it, between the mind and the spirit. Could you explain that distinction as the report sees it?
Yes, definitely. It's pretty key to understanding this framework. It states that our spirit, with a capital S, has always operated in the realm of complete freedom. That's its natural state.
Always free.
But this complete freedom hasn't been fully experienced in the mind, or at least not consistently.
Why not? What's the blockage?
The report attributes this to the collective mind learning, way back when, to operate in patterns of survival.
Survival patterns, okay. And how does it describe those? What do they actually look like in practice?
Well, the source suggests these patterns led the mind to develop beliefs that it has limitations, that it has to follow certain rules to be safe.
Mm.
And more significantly, it led the mind to see potential risks or dangers in what it calls the third dimension.
Which sounds like just everyday physical reality.
Yeah, that seems to be the implication. Our day-to-day world, it's all the risks there as very real. And because of this perceived reality of risk, the mind decided it had to protect itself at any cost. That's where, according to this source, humanity's survival patterns really originated.
Got it. Okay, so the report is suggesting these old survival patterns are now coming up to the surface for us to look at.
Exactly, they're becoming more visible.
And it poses a question to us, doesn't it, basically? Do we want to keep repeating those patterns, or is it time to move towards what it calls complete freedom from the past and from the illusions of limitation and fear?
Yeah, that's the core choice it presents, which naturally leads to the next question. Okay, how do we actually do that? How do we navigate that shift?
Right. What's the method?
The source offers a primary method for moving into this state of complete freedom. It encourages us to, well, to question the judgments or fearful thoughts our mind has about itself, others, and life in general.
Just question them.
Yeah.
Okay. And it gives specific examples of thoughts to question. The first one is that feeling nobody understands or gets me. Pretty common one.
Very common, yeah. So if this thought pops up, the source suggests turning inward and asking your mind, is this absolutely 100% a universal truth? Like, is it always true for everyone?
Probably not when you put it like that.
Right. And then, even if you feel that is completely true in this moment, do you actually want things to remain that way? And it suggests just offering a simple yes or no answer to yourself.
Okay. And what if the answer is yes? Maybe unconsciously you do want things to stay that way. What does the source say about that possibility?
This is where it gets quite insightful. From this particular perspective, it asks you to consider the possibility that, maybe on an unconscious level, you might have actually chosen to be misunderstood.
Chosen it. Why?
Well, the source suggests it could be a defense mechanism, a way to feel safe by avoiding the potential vulnerability that comes with being truly seen or understood by others. You know, if they don't get me, they can't hurt me. That kind of logic.
I see. Like a protective wall.
Exactly. And the breakthrough, according to this source, is the moment you realize that your experience of being misunderstood might be, on some level, a result of your own choice.
Wow.
The source claims that seeing this ends the victim's survival patterns related to this specific issue. It shifts the focus from others misunderstanding you
Right.
to the possibility that maybe you've been misunderstanding ourselves.
Hmm.
And this realization, they say, is what allows you to take our power back and become the creator of our life again, instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance.
That completely flips the script on that feeling, doesn't it?
Well,
It really puts the power squarely back with the individual's inner state and choices.
it does.
Okay, let's look at the second example the source uses. This one's also very common, especially maybe in spiritual or healing communities. As a spiritual person who offers healing services, I feel it's wrong to accept money for those services.
Yes, that's a belief many people really grapple with.
Yeah.
And this source suggests applying a similar questioning process here too. Asking yourself, do I know this to be an absolute truth? Is it universally wrong? And if so, what has led me to believe this idea is true? Where did this belief actually come from?
And what kind of roots does the source suggest might be behind that belief?
Well, the report mentions things like your upbringing, particularly maybe religious beliefs that might have equated spirituality with poverty or detachment from worldly things.
Okay.
It also brings up the intriguing idea of beliefs carry over from past lives.
Yeah.
You know, the notion that perhaps being poor was seen as a sign of spiritual devotion in another time.
Interesting.
And another possibility it mentions is simply judging money itself based on how others misuse it. You see greed, you see negative things associated with money, and so you conclude money itself must be inherently bad or wrong.
Right. And the source has a surprisingly different take on money itself, doesn't it? It's quite unique.
It really does. It proposes that money actually has a form of awareness,
Yeah.
that it feels and responds to our attitudes and feelings towards it.
Really? Awareness.
Yeah. And that it actually wants to be of help to us. The report explains that money was originally intended as just a simple exchange of energy, part of what it calls the principle of circulation, like a natural universal flow of giving and receiving.
Okay, so following that logic,
Yeah.
if we treat money with judgment or unkindness, we're actually creating a separation from it. Is that
Yeah.
the idea?
Precisely. It's like blaming a hammer because someone used it badly. The source argues that the belief that it's wrong to accept money for spiritual services often stems from a judgment based on how some people interact with money.
Mm-hmm.
And this judgment, they claim, creates a blockage in that energy exchange. It not only potentially limits your own abundance, but it also kind of dishonors your own efforts and the value of your service.
Right.
And crucially, according to this perspective, it dishonors money's true sacred role, which the Source describes quite beautifully as simply the energy of giving and receiving love.
Wow, that's a very different way to think about money. So, by questioning these deep thoughts, whether it's about connection or money or service, the Source is suggesting we create an opening in our consciousness. Is that it?
Yes, exactly. An opening that allows us to expand into higher states of consciousness and ultimately into complete freedom. That's the potential it sees.
Mhm.
The Source also touches on the natural resistance or guilt or sadness that might come up when we start confronting these old beliefs. It's not always easy.
No, definitely not.
And it reminds us gently that these patterns were formed when we were simply doing the best we could with what we knew at the time,
Mm.
often operating purely from survival mode.
Right, so compassion for ourselves in that process.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it offers a new question to consider.
Yeah.
What if the mind no longer needs fear and separation as its main form of protection? What if, as the Source suggests, spirit has actually been keeping us safe all along in a deeper way?
That's a big shift in perspective.
It is. And this realization, according to the Source, can free up enormous internal space, making room for new experiences and greater states of aliveness, awareness, and being.
But it acknowledges the mind might not like this. It might feel uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, it acknowledges that the mind, being so used to its old ways, its survival patterns, might feel pretty uncomfortable with these celestial openings, these shifts in consciousness. Change can feel threatening, even good change.
So what's our role then when that discomfort arises?
The Source suggests our role isn't to fight the mind or fix its discomfort, but simply to be a compassionate presence for our own mind, observing its resistance without trying to fix, change, or save it.
Just watch it.
Just watch it. Send it love, metaphorically speaking.
Mhm.
Offer gentle observation, and that, the Source claims, can help the mind relax into the change rather than fighting it.
Okay, that makes sense. Be kind to the part of us that's scared of change. So, as we engage with this inner work, questioning thoughts, being present with discomfort, what does the Source claim are the potential effects? The outcomes of embracing this kind of complete freedom. It lists quite a few.
It does, yeah. As we let go of these old survival patterns and step more fully into what the Source calls our full divine selves, it suggests we might start noticing some pretty profound shifts.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Okay, well, it talks about things like releasing the need to blame others for our circumstances.
Ah, taking responsibility.
Kind of, yeah. Because we understand from this perspective that we've chosen our experiences on some level for growth and clarity. So blame doesn't really fit anymore.
Okay, what else?
There's also the release of the need to constantly please others, finding it easier to express our truth, in alignment with our highest good, not just what others want to hear.
That's a big one for many people.
Huge. The Source also mentions feeling empowered to try new things that support our personal expansion,
Ah.
and maybe entering into relationships based on honoring mutual freedom, moving away from patterns of possessiveness or control.
Healthier relationships.
Hopefully, yeah. It also points to developing a deeper, more intuitive connection with spirit, one that goes beyond just logic. Feeling that connection more.
Mm-hmm.
And on a personal level, it suggests letting go of the need to micromanage ourselves and others. Feeling empowered to make ourselves a priority, not selfishly, but in a balanced way.
Self-care is essential.
Exactly. And stopping the tendency to hide or diminish ourselves, operating instead from a place of authenticity, just being who we are.
Okay. And what's the ultimate result of all this, according to the Source?
Well, ultimately, the Source claims these shifts lead to living life more fully, experiencing deeper love and compassion for ourselves, our inner child, others, the whole journey, and operating from a state they describe as eternal abundance and joy.
Eternal abundance and joy. That sounds pretty good.
Doesn't sound too bad, does it? And this, it says, contributes to greater physical, mental, and emotional balance and well-being overall.
Right. That really paints a picture of, well, significant transformation. The Source suggests that remembering these potential outcomes can be a powerful anchor, right? When we're navigating the emotional intensity that might come up, reminding us what we're moving towards.
Exactly. Keep the goal in mind when things feel tough.
Yeah.
And then moving beyond even freedom, the Source introduces what it calls the next phase, enlightenment.
Enlightenment. Okay.
And it suggests that as a natural result of all this inner clearing and shifting towards freedom, you might find yourself feeling a genuine desire to, well, to laugh more,
Yeah.
to play, to just feel like a kid again.
And the source offers a remarkably simple definition for enlightenment here, doesn't it? It says it simply means to lighten up.
Yeah, I love that. It deliberately moves away from the idea that enlightenment has to be this super intense, heavy, serious pursuit.
Right.
The source observes that people, particularly maybe within spiritual or New Age communities, can often take themselves and life way too seriously.
Guilty is charged sometime.
We all can be, right? It suggests this might stem from a naturally empathic nature, maybe coupled with a deeply ingrained desire to fix humanity or even save the world, that sense of burden.
And it asks that really provocative question. How does it serve me to believe that I have to save the world?
Yeah. Like, what's really underneath that feeling? The source proposes that at a deeper level, this belief might be linked to an unconscious attempt to actually save yourself.
Save yourself from what?
Perhaps from having to fully feel or experience another person's pain. If I can fix their problem, I don't have to feel their suffering so intensely myself.
Ah, another kind of defense mechanism.
Possibly. But the source asserts that the universe and your higher self is inherently perfect as it is, and that the mind's drive to fix everything was often just a distraction created purely to feel safe and in control, going back to those survival patterns.
So the path to enlightenment, then, according to this source, is basically choosing to let go of that need to rescue.
Pretty much. Choosing instead to actively lighten up, to genuinely enjoy life, and importantly, not to sweat the small stuff.
Just let things be a bit more.
Exactly. It describes this vision of what could emerge. Imagine a world where people feel safe enough to let their guards down, to play, to just joyfully appreciate the gifts of life around them.
Sounds nice.
It does. And the source claims this is the direction we're actually heading, and that the shift begins with each individual making a conscious choice. A choice to commit to ourselves, allowing ourselves to truly enjoy life, have fun, and play.
And it explicitly calls that state, that mix of freedom and lightness.
Complete freedom.
Yeah.
That's its definition.
Interesting. The report also specifically mentions the upcoming June 2025 solstice. What significance does it attribute to that particular moment?
It describes the solstice not just as, the longest or shortest day, but as a sacred turning point, a cosmic gateway, even a divine pause.
Wow, strong language.
Yeah. It's presented as a moment where, in the source's words, the veils between timelines thin, creating a powerful opportunity to reclaim ancient aspects of our soul, things we might have forgotten or lost touch with.
Which leads to that really powerful phrase it uses. It's time, rise, expand, reclaim, like a call to action.
Definitely. Spiritually, the source sees it as a clarion call, a clear signal to step more fully into what it calls our divine self.
Okay.
It claims the energies around this specific time are actively dissolving things that have been holding us back, describing them as outdated roles, karmic contracts, and inner narratives that no longer serve our expansion, like a cosmic spring cleaning.
And it mentions that feeling of internal reorganization, almost like the soul is reprioritizing things, which can show up as those moments of deep clarity, maybe followed by emotional release.
Yes, exactly. The source describes that emotional release as the light doing its sacred work, letting go of the old to make space. And the key message here, again, is the emphasis on allowing this process, rather than trying to force it or do more.
Surrendering to it.
Yeah, the source encourages surrendering to what it calls the unfolding miracle. Trust in the process.
And how does it suggest we approach the solstice itself, practically?
To view it as a divine reset, it suggests using your breath as a simple anchor in the moment, just focusing on your breath.
Yeah.
And allowing the core light within you, your essence, your spirit, to be your guide.
Trusting your inner guidance.
Exactly. And maybe affirming your readiness, internally. Readiness to live as the fullest, most awakened version of yourself. And it concludes that thought with, and so it is.
Yeah.
Like sealing the intention.
This deep dive, really drawing from this one source, has taken us on quite a journey through navigating these potentially powerful energetic shifts, understanding how they might manifest internally, exploring this method for questioning our own fundamental thought patterns to step into deeper freedom, and even reframing enlightenment itself as a conscious choice to lighten up and embrace joy.
It's a compelling narrative. The core path presented in this material seems to be about, first, acknowledging the energetic forces potentially at play, then turning inward to honestly observe our old survival patterns and judgments, but without harsh criticism.
Right, with compassion.
With compassion. And then actively choosing to embrace a state of lightness, personal responsibility, and just allowing the unfolding process.
So, For you, the listener, carrying forward the perspective offered just by this source material, if every experience in your life is, on some level, the result of a choice you've made, what does that mean when you look at the challenges you might be facing right now?
It's a big question.
And what possibilities might open up if you were to consciously choose differently, perhaps focusing on freedom?